Good afternoon and welcome to the RDOS Emergency Operations Center EOC wildfire update for Friday, August 12th. My name is Eric Thompson. I'm an information officer with the EOC and just want to confirm that we are in fact live on YouTube, and I believe we are. We also have several guests joining us on WebEx as well, including the chair of the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen, also Director for Electoral Area A, Mark Pendergraft. Mayor of Keremeos is with us as well, Manfred Bauer, and we have Chief Greg Gabriel from PIB, from LSIB, Lower Similkameen Band, Chief Keith Crow, and we have a number of members of the media as well. And we'll get started in just a moment with Carly DeRosiers. She is with BCWildfire.ca. She's an information officer. She'll give us an update on the Keremeos Creek wildfire. We'll also be talking a little bit about another wildfire that is in the area, not a wildfire of note, but it is a fire burning near Richter Mountain. The current number of properties on evacuation order within the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen, that's in Electoral Area I, is 273. And on evacuation alert, 428 properties, that's in Electoral Areas B, G, and I. 29 properties were placed on evacuation alert in the RDOS in Electoral Area B near Coston due to the Richter Mountain wildfire. Highway 3A is now open to all traffic. Check Drive BC for updates and please drive with care. Remember, crews are in the area. You'll see increased enforcement from RCMP as well. And the reception centers in Penticton and Keremeos are now closed. Let's go to Carly DeRosiers, information officer with BC Wildfire, and a quick update on the Keremeos Creek wildfire. And then, Carly, I'm hoping you'll be able to provide a little bit of information about the new wildfire in the area, which I understand is right now at 30 hectares. That's near Richter Mountain. But let's start with Keremeos Creek.
Yeah, for sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. I am Carly. I'm one of the information officers here in all of our, with the IMT managing the Keremeos Creek wildfire and the Richter Mountain wildfire. I'm just going to share my screen quickly here, so give me 1 second. All right. Just confirm that you can see that. Is everyone able to see my
Sorry. No, we're not able to see it. Sorry. I was checking my notes there.
It doesn't look like it's on my end. All right, how's
we
that?
can see it now. Yeah, okay, that's great. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, I will start with a quick operational update for the Keremeos Creek fire, and then move on to the Richter Mountain fire. So just right off the bat, I mean, overall, things are relatively stable, especially in that Highway 3A corridor. That highway is open now to the public, as you mentioned. So, but it is also kind of the main priority in that area is mop up and patrol. So lots of personnel and crews still in that area, something to be aware of. There are still 309 firefighters on this fire, 49 structure protection personnel, and then helicopters, about 16 helicopters that are being shared between the Keremeos Creek fire and the Richter Mountain wildfire. The latest perimeter update is still, there hasn't been a new perimeter since before the 10th, so it's still sitting at 6,712 hectares. In terms of operations, so as I mentioned, along the highway here is the main priority is mop up and patrol. There was an infrared aerial scan conducted on the evening of the 10th along the highway here, and then up Green Mountain Road around the top, the northeast corner of this fire, around the perimeter. So several hotspots were identified, and that's where crews are focusing their attention in that area. And then so we have crews kind of in the south here tying up those spots. There was that planned ignition yesterday, as I mentioned, kind of in this area over here along Lala Creek Forest Service Road, was very successful. Crews are continuing to mop up and patrol in that area as well. And now the main objective is to really extinguish all of those hotspots. So they'll be in the area for some time focusing on that. Up here in the Sheep Creek Road area, there is still some active fire, more hotspots in here. So crews are in that area working on that as well. and then working up north to the northern edge of the fire, building those containment lines and having good success in containment up in this northeast edge of the fire. As we move further west, in the northwest edge of the fire, this is where we're seeing the most fire activity, and also the terrain is quite inaccessible to both heavy equipment and ground crews. So yeah, it's something that there is some planning going on to address that currently, but we have crews up in the area doing direct attack on this northeast edge. But as we move further south, things do become a little more steep, more inaccessible. This area here that I mentioned yesterday also is uncontained. However, there has not been any growth or anything significant recently. It is also quite rocky, steep terrain in there. We are hoping to get crews in there to do some mop up and patrol in the coming days. But for now, still some active fire in there, but overall relatively stable. We did have some hot spots over here in this southwestern edge of the fire as well. Some kind of burning unorganized in the cut blocks. So something that we are keeping an eye on. In terms of the forecast, so as we all know, thunderstorms were forecast yesterday. However, those systems didn't really move into the area of the Keremeos Creek wildfire. We're kind of further east, so no significant impacts from any winds or anything yesterday. Winds kind of mild to moderate, some gusts. If there's thunderstorms in the area later on, we may get some precipitation. Nothing not a ton of precipitation, so it likely won't be too impactful, but the wind is something that we're definitely keeping an eye on as those storms roll through. And then I'm going to move on to the Richter Mountain wildfire. So located 17 kilometers west of Osoyoos, and this photo here kind of shows the terrain that it is burning in. So there's that steep rocky terrain. It did make its way up the mountain after starting near the highway this morning, and then was kind of halted a little bit. So fire behavior was reduced as it got into the rockier terrain near the top where the fuels are a little bit more sparse. The latest update is it is estimated at 30 hectares. We do have 34 firefighters on that fire, and there have been helicopters bucketing throughout the day, especially in the high elevations where access is more difficult and where we were seeing the increased fire behavior earlier on. We do have unit crews out there working along each side of the fire, going upslope, building a guard, and things are looking really good. And that's all I have today, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Can see if we have any questions from the media. I did receive a note from someone saying they weren't able to see your screen, but I did check YouTube and I was able to see your screen there. So I don't know that that is an issue at the moment. We'll just remind anyone who would like to ask questions who is participating through WebEx, if you can raise your hand, we'll bring you in for a question. We have Callie McTavish back from CBC. We'll bring her into our group, into the attendee section to see if we can unmute her. But in the meantime, well, there's Callie McTavish. Let's see if she's able to unmute herself, and if she is, we'll get you to ask a question. Callie, go ahead, please.
Hi, Eric. Thanks very much. So it said on the page there that the cause of the fire was unknown, but on the wildfire, or I think on the BC wildfire site, I saw it suspected human caused somewhere, and I saw other reports that it was believed that it was a truck fire that had started it. Can you confirm any of those details or clarify, please? Thank you.
Yeah, so it is suspected human cause. It is under investigation.
Do you know anything about the truck, or just not saying for now?
We are aware of the reports. Yeah, at this point, it is unconfirmed, but so it remains under investigation.
So it's under investigation, and we have seen pictures of a large crane truck that had crashed, and there was a fire associated specifically with that vehicle. But you're saying, Carly, at this point, the two haven't been connected, that's what caused that fire near Richter Mountain. Is that correct?
Yeah, there was the vehicle incident. So that fire did start around 1 a.m. this morning, and we are aware that that vehicle was on fire, and the fire started here. But in terms of officially confirmed at this point, it has been officially confirmed.
Okay, thank you very much, Kelly. I hope that did you have a follow-up on that? There's not really much more we can say on that.
Thanks so much.
Pause. Okay, thank you so much. Joe Fries with the Penticton Herald. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Carly, I'm just wondering if you can give us kind of the prognosis for the weekend in terms of the firefight and what the weather's going to be and what the plans look like.
Yeah, definitely. So we have seen the humidity decrease a little bit. So recoveries were a bit better last night and the night before. So going into the weekend, a little bit drier conditions. That being said, temperatures are kind of leveling off a little bit. So a little bit cooler than we have seen up until about Tuesday, when we do see kind of a ridge settle in the area, which will bring in warmer temperatures but more stable. And then following that, around next Thursday, so about a week from now, when that ridge breaks down, is when we could expect maybe stronger winds, which have been the primary driver of the Keremeos Creek fire of late. So yeah, things are I mean, of course, as temperatures increase, that's always a factor that increases fire behavior. Relative humidity decreases, another driver of fire behavior. But as I mentioned, wind has been kind of the primary driver of the fire behavior lately. And without those winds, nothing substantial is anticipated.
Joe, did you have a follow-up for Carly?
Oh, thank you.
No, thank you. Looks, we may have another question here. Let's see. Wayne Moore, can you let us know? He can't unmute himself, but can you give it a try now, Wayne, and just let us know who you're with?
Yeah,
and we'll see if we can get.
I was able to unmute. With Castanet and Kelowna. Just curious, as Carly, as far as the Richter Mountain Fire is concerned, I believe, if memory serves, that that's the same general area as the fire from 3 years ago, from 2019, I believe. Can you kind of give us a sense of what fuels may be left in that area for as far as fire activity is concerned up there?
Yeah, thanks, Wayne. That is a good point. This fire is burning between in an area between two previous wildfires. So one just to the south, the one slightly to the north. So there was an area of unburnt fuel that was not touched by those previous fires. So it has moved upslope, but it is steep. However, the fuels are sparse, especially in that rocky terrain as we get higher up. But in terms of farther north and farther south, there is it has been previously impacted by wildfire.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much, Wayne. And I see Joe still has his hand up. I think that's a leftover hand here on WebEx. For those of you watching on WebEx, it's gone now, but we do have a question from Carly Berry, and she's with Info News. Any word on if and when the evacuation orders will be rescinded at Apex? And Carly, I know that there is work being done right now to look at all of the structural protection equipment that's in place. Can you give us an update on what's happening at Apex Village?
Yeah, there is a lot of remaining structure protection equipment up in Apex, so we are working closely with Apex RDOS. There are several factors that do impact a recommendation to or rescind an evac order or alert, logistics being one of them. So once that equipment does begin to be demobilized, that's increased traffic on those roads with those water tenders and such. And otherwise, in terms of fire behavior, that northwest corner of the fire is where we're still seeing the majority of the fire activity, and where the terrain and the slopes and such are challenging crews, ground crews, equipment. So at this time, we're not at a comfortable place with that fire activity to recommend that quite yet, but we are continuing to work in that order or in that area and forward planning to address those areas of increased activity.
All right, well, thank you very much. And we do have a question here from the Canadian Press from Brenna Owen, and she's wondering if there is concern the Richter fire could cross over to the other side of the property, which is where properties are on evacuation alert. I'm not sure exactly. From what I understand, there are 29 properties on evacuation alert. The RDOS has placed those 29 properties on alert. Can we go back to the Richter Mountain Fire and talk a bit about the activity that you can share with us as far as any potential concerns for surrounding properties?
Yeah, for sure. It looks like Brenna meant the other side of the highway, and no, the fire did start at the highway and move upslope. Fires generally don't burn very quickly downslope. There are kind of two factors that impact downslope burning, and that's when we get winds, a wind shift, which is not anticipated at this time, and then otherwise it is rolling debris. So ignited fuels rolling down the hill. We do have 34 personnel on site bucketing constantly, and fortunately as well, the helicopters are bucketing from the river that is down along that highway as well. So very quick turnaround, and there is no imminent threat or concern that fire will hit the highway.
Would you say that due to the proximity of that fire near Richter Mountain, to the proximity of the Keremeos Creek wildfire and all of the crews in the area, that helped with a quick response to this wildfire?
Yeah, certainly. As I mentioned, this fire started around 1 a.m. So having crews on site and also certainly helped. We were able to dispatch those crews out to that fire early this morning and get them going and working right up the bat. Also having a lot of helicopters in the area also really helpful. So really helped with the quick response.
We have a question here in the chat about closing Highway 3A, if that will close again. Let's talk a bit about Highway 3A through Olalla. Is there a chance that anyone traveling in that area or people living in Olalla and the neighboring communities, that they may see the odd spot fire because the work that's been done to put out that wildfire up in the hills, that there could be potentially say a stump or something that might be on fire that wouldn't have been seen? So people may see some open flame or smoke. Is that going to be a possibility? And if so, people should be reporting that to the BC Wildfire Service?
Yeah, definitely. So for the coming weeks, likely, this fire is still going to continue to burn, and as long as it's likely within the fire perimeter. So certainly expecting to see smoke from the inside the fire perimeter. It is when it is outside of the pre-existing perimeter that it does become more of a concern. However, as we progress through August, the thing about the smoke from inside the fire perimeter is generally those spots of unburnt fuel might be burning, but are likely surrounded by area that has burnt. So the likelihood of spread or movement beyond that isolated area is quite small. I mean, also we've seen smoke or increased smoke at the high elevations in rocky terrain, where the likelihood of spread is also minimal compared to areas of more dense fuel. And then additionally, when it comes to securing that perimeter, that is certainly our focus. So crews are focused on the perimeter of the fire and have assessed and addressed the concerns within that perimeter previously. So likely to continue to see smoke driving along that highway. As it stands right now, there are still hot spots along the highway, but we don't believe there's much of a concern to that highway at this point. Crews will continue to be in the area extinguishing those hotspots, seeking them out, and then as we get further along, we have additional scans to identify their hotspots to focus efforts.
Okay, if we don't have any other questions from the media, I'm just going to put out that last call to members of the media who are participating in our WebEx. If you do have any questions for Carly DesRosiers, please let us know. And just to confirm Carly's spelling, in case you don't have it, Karley, last name DesRosiers, DesRosiers, BC Wildfire Service Information Officer. Well, before we wrap up, Carly, it's been certainly a busy time, and this is our last planned briefing for a while. We'll see what happens next week. We're not able to give definitive on what's happening with Apex and the village. We do know that Green Mountain Road remains on evacuation order, the section from roughly the turnoff up to Apex onward toward Highway 3A. And that is, as we've been talking about over the last few days, is due to the wildfire danger, but also crews are working in the area. Can you leave us with some thoughts on why people need to be still very aware of the Keremeos Creek wildfire when they're traveling through the region, as far as watching your speed, paying attention to the roadway, watching for crews, because there are still quite a few crews in the area and you may see them along the roadways?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as you mentioned, there are crews in the area and they are continuing to be working, and they will continue to be for this foreseeable future. So really important to slow down, and be mindful of them when you're out driving in that area. In terms of safety, in a wildfire area, there are several safety risks associated. Ash pits, for example. We do have danger tree assessors out there daily assessing those danger trees, but danger trees are always a risk as well. So if you are in an area with active wildfire, be especially careful, and yeah, keep our crews safe.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Carly. You're welcome to stay on the line if you're able to. I think we're going to wrap it up here. Lots to look forward to on the weekend as far as information coming out, whether it's on the situation with Apex or this other particular wildfire we were looking at. The wildfire that is near Richter Mountain is not a wildfire of note. Originally, I saw on BC Wildfire's website, it was listed as 40 hectares. That's gone down to 30. Is that just a mapping adjustment?
Yeah, we did get a more accurate track on that fire, and it was about 30 hectares.
And to confirm, still listed as out of control?
It is still listed as out of control, but as I mentioned, crews are working up both sides. So we have a unit crew on each side, and then helicopters bucketing at the top. So that work will continue until we have that fire contained.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much, Carly. We really appreciate your time.
Not a problem. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, and before we wrap up our video update for Friday, August 12th, just a couple of notes for people who have returned home, who were on evacuation order. You'll have a welcome home package, and there's lots of information in there, including information about garbage collection. And that welcome back package, if you haven't had a chance to look at it, is available on the RDOS Emergency Operations Center website, emergency.rdos.bc.ca. The Emergency Support Services Reception Centers, there were two of them open, one in Penticton at 120 Green Avenue, and that one is closed, and the location at Victory Hall in Keremeos also closed. Remember, keep an eye on the website for the RDOS, the Emergency Operations Center website, for any changes to evacuation alerts or orders. You'll see it there. If you haven't signed up for Voyant Alert, now may be a good time to do so. If you are signed up for Voyant Alert, but you haven't entered your address, very important to do so. You'll receive information about any changes to evacuation alerts or orders if you're in the current area where the Keremeos Creek or the Richter Mountain wildfires are, but also important just to keep in touch with the RDOS for routine notifications as well. We'd also like to just take a moment to thank everyone who has been working to support the efforts on this wildfire, the Keremeos Creek wildfire. And the list is long. We'll mention them now because, as I said, this is our last planned update for now. We'll see what next week brings, but certainly everyone inside the Emergency Operations Center in Penticton with the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen and the people working on location as well. We don't often talk about the folks in the Emergency Operations Center, but there are a lot of them, many just regular RDOS employees like myself who go into the Emergency Operations Center to take on a completely different task. And that includes the people working behind the scenes in information services here to bring you this broadcast, but also all of the other people in the many different departments. We'd like to acknowledge them. And of course, the firefighters. We've got BC Wildfire Service working on this wildfire and others around the province, along with all of the different fire departments, local and visiting, who've been helping out with structural protection and so much more. The RCMP, BC Emergency Health Services, Emergency Management BC, Health Emergency Management Services, Interior Health, and Emergency Support Services, and all of the volunteers, including those with search and rescue, and of course, with Animal Lifeline Emergency Response Team, Alert. And if we missed you, I do apologize, but we just wanted to acknowledge you while we had the opportunity. Thank you very much again for joining us, and there will be more information coming out over the next couple of days, just general updates on the EOC website, and then any changes to these wildfires or any other information about wildfires, you can check BC Wildfire's website, BCWildfire.ca. Thanks for joining us. Please stay safe.